This generation is loud. They have opinions and they want to make an impact. And a lot of the times that shows up online. They are posting, they are sharing, they are speaking out, and that's the new normal. But how do we as parents help them channel all of that passion and actually turn it into something that will make a meaningful impact? My name is Tiffany Dogie. I'm president and CEO of Children's Harbor. And today we're going to talk about what it takes to raise a world changer. And who better to have this conversation with than President and CEO of United Way Broward, Kathleen Cannon herself. Thank you for being with us today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
We also have our co-host, Vanessa Seltzer, Chief Development Officer of Children's Harbor, and longtime friend of the Harbor team and human trafficking expert, Theresa Kennedy.
Thank you.
So before we jump in, if you love this content and you look forward to watching this podcast, please stop what you are doing and like or hit subscribe, because it really does help us. And you're not subscribing. It does position our channel in a way that helps other parents find us, and it really does help us create content or keep creating content. So stop what you're doing and hit that subscribe button. Oh. All right, ladies, let's get started. Tell me a little bit about your day job, and then take me back to the late 1900s.
Just about.
And tell me about a time when you were a teenager and you did something that would have been considered world changer energy, even though we didn't call it that back then.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so I'm a social worker. I'm a licensed clinical social worker by trade, and I still consider myself a social worker. Now at United Way, I get to be a social worker in a macro sense on the entire community, and that's the lens I bring to United Way, is our impact in creating change. And I love all these partnerships, and this conversation is so important because I don't think it gets talked about enough, and I don't think it gets driven into enough, and that we're not, kind of dissecting it. So I love that part. I think for me, I didn't know anything about World Changer. But I had, my brother was born 2 years after me, and he was born with the most, he had a genetic abnormality and a chromosomal dislocation. I won't get into that, but he had no cognitive ability. He was physically deformed. The only thing that he could literally do on his own was breathe. He couldn't see, he couldn't eat, he couldn't cognate, he couldn't move, he couldn't. So this was somewhat of a disruptor. I didn't know at the time that our family was different. So my mother really just hunkered in and took care of him. And I don't think she drove for 9 years. I'm not even sure she left the house for a while. So in one way, it was altering, but I learned so early on about empathy and about differences and about things you can't control, but do you let it drive you into the grave, or do you figure it out? And today, his name was Joey. My dad's name was Joseph. And I thank Joey every day because it was his gift to this family. First of all, it created this bond with my mother and father that was unstoppable, which could also pull people apart because it was so tragic in a sense. It created this bond with them. And for me, it made me empathic and a giver and a champion for differences and stuff. So I think for me, very early on, that's what kind of created this social worker in me, or this human service person. And there was this one example in gym class. We called it then. I don't think it's called gym class anymore.
Do they even have gym class?
I think they have PE. Maybe. I don't even know if they have it anymore.
Nobody's playing dodgeball, though.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's a crime.
In elementary school.
They are?
Oh, well, that's
All
kind
right.
of good.
Yes.
But when I was young, it was like hardcore, right? And I was very lucky that I was very athletic. So when they picking teams, they pick captains, and they would pick me as a captain. And then what you did is you picked each of you. So the people who were not athletic were always last, always just sitting there, always like not looking at their fingers.
It's terrible.
So I did the total opposite. I picked the people who would not be picked.
I would have been on your team.
You would have been on our team, girl. And then the gym teacher caught on to this, and then the gym teacher decided to just do it differently. But I feel like that was a moment teaching
Defining moment.
defining
Of
moment
humanity.
of humanity, like feeling so awful for the people who were always picked, laughed, and picked on maybe. And so I flipped it, And it was very disruptive, and not everybody liked you because our team didn't win. However, the gym teacher picked up on it and did it completely different from thereafter. So maybe that was a little bit of a
That was your
shift.
first step into being a world changer.
And people weren't happy about it, some of the teammates and stuff. So, but I stuck with it, and I think maybe that was a little pivotal moment. So,
Okay, I was not expecting that.
gym class.
We're already in the deep end. Teresa.
Yeah, definitely world changer. Never heard that word before back then. But I would say, for me, I've just always been the feisty one, right? Probably not surprising. Never had a problem speaking up for myself, but more importantly, when I saw that, very similar to what you're saying, if I saw other people at school, who's not sitting with who at lunch, things like that, those would be the people that I would go sit with. And those would be the people that I would want to spend time with. But I also grew up in a space where my mom was babysitting children in the neighborhood. And I didn't know it at the time, but as I got older, I found out that they were single moms, people who, were caring for relatives formerly in the child welfare system up in New York. Wow. And I think being in that space where that was in my home every day, just really learned to be an advocate for people that needed an advocate and an ally for people that needed somebody to create space for them. So even when I didn't know what it was, I was always comfortable in that space. And I feel that that's carried through my personal life and for sure within my career. Yeah.
An ally, we didn't use the word ally.
No,
but you were clearly an ally. That's cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So for me, so first of all, I'm the Chief Development Officer at Children's Harbor. So I connect community to our mission, and I've had the pleasure of working with everyone here at this table, obviously, with Tiffany. But throughout I think I can say my whole career with Kathleen, all my organizations have been supported or funded by United Way. So I've always had that. I joke that I was voluntold into servant leadership.
That's true.
It was a birthright. I was raised by the definition of two servant leaders. My father being a pastor, reverend, throughout my whole life of various different churches. But my mom led the WIC department for in Indiantown, Florida, for a majority of my adolescence. So. No, actually, my whole adolescence. But what she did there, she built a program to fight obesity in the community because these are primarily migrant workers, so they were giving very rich and whole foods to their very little ones. So she would have toddlers that were 80 pounds, for example. So, but it never stopped there. So similarly, my brothers and I have vivid memories of being in the basement of the church at Christmas time, and it's filled with toys, and I'm maybe 8 or 9, and I was like, this is torture. This is awful. There's just a sea of Barbie dolls, and I can't have a one.
They're not for you.
But it was this tough lesson. It really was so brutal, like someone.
Trauma.
But it did help me to see what the other side was to this, the impact that doing good has on you. So, as my early teen years, I think I was just kind of thrusted into the spotlight of, so I was already speaking, already doing mission trips. But I joked for at least a good solid 4 Christmases, we had like an extra family member in the morning. Because I was like, oh, who are you? Who are you? And it was always somebody from the congregation, but everyone from a runaway teen that I would later find out about, or, my dad had a way with working with Hispanic men who were maybe going through alcoholism and it was causing issues in the home is where we'll put that. And so I just saw unconditional love and servant leadership as if it was just like, this is the nature of how you function. So I never knew different. I never knew how to be different. But then I, as a teen, became my protective nature came out, and with no guidance into how to regulate that.
Okay.
I was a voice for a lot of people, but probably not surprising. You're still getting to know this, but to you two, a disruptor. So I was always the one pointing out, but why is this happening? Why is that? And I would say
still are. So that's a great segue to the next question. what does it look like, guys, when you have a teenager that hasn't done anything visible or big, but there's potential here? This kid has the potential to really make a difference. What signs are you noticing in that early time period when you're looking at a 15-year-old or a 14-year-old, like, I think this kid has something special? What is that? What are those characteristics to you that stand out?
One is curiosity, asking questions, and you just mentioned it. Why is so-and-so, doesn't have a dad? Or why does so-and-so not go to school? Or why is there a small bus that picks up some people from school? Why do some people dress a little differently? I think the curiosity is a great mechanism to those open-ended questions and to having conversation. But not everybody is curious and not everybody asks those questions. So sometimes a parent, and me as a grandparent, about pointing some of that out. Like sometimes it's really as adults' responsibilities to point out that maybe our little bubble here is fine and not everybody lives in this bubble, and we should really be looking at how other people live and what challenges and what plights there are. So I think sometimes if somebody isn't, a teen or a youth isn't curious, it's our responsibility to instill some of that curiosity and to start to point out, because we want our kids to know that not everybody walks in the same path that we're walking, and they really need to understand that piece. But curiosity, I think, is a big one for knowing that somebody's got that little bit of sass in them and might want to be a world changer.
Okay.
Yeah, I can say, if I think about in my house specifically, my daughter is a fairly quiet young lady. But when she would get hot about something, she would just go off. And it would be surprising to people because they weren't used to that. So I think sometimes recognizing you could have a very quiet game changer in your house and just have to help them find those spaces that maybe matter enough to them that they'll be willing to speak up in those other places. Because for me, it was just a matter of really recognizing when those moments came up and just trying to engage more and, to just push, I would say, to just be like, well, why is that? Like, why are you so amped up about that? What's what's hitting you in your gut that's making you say, like, I need to talk about this. I need to do something about this. This isn't right. So I think sometimes it's really recognizing some of those quiet things that might come up and, seeing that there could be something more for that young person or, in your life to be able to encourage them to do more.
Well, in meeting that, I think to both your points, meeting it with empathy, right?
Yeah.
So even I don't have teens yet, but mine, I'll notice he has the curiosity, or we've always said this, like, oh, we don't stare, right? But what I overheard another parent say was, we don't stare, and do you have any questions?
Oh,
That's great.
And I was like,
wow,
that's
good.
good
That's a nice
job.
next step.
Dad, I remember it was a dad. And I started to have those conversations, especially with the previous organizations I've worked with, even at Children's Harbor. My kids have already been on campus, and it's having the conversation beforehand.
For sure.
But then also letting them lead the conversation after. Like, what questions do you have? But yes, and also meeting them where they're at, because I do recognize that this generation's different.
Sure.
And
Very different.
how they're showing that passion point also could not be verbal. It could be digital.
Yep.
Right?
Probably
and
is
so
digital.
it is probably mostly digital. So
Definitely digital, whether you know about the account or not. It's digital.
Where they're expressing their opinion.
Yes. Yes.
And to segue into the next question, so this generation, they have a lot of opinions.
Yes.
And they're very focused on making that meaningful impact and having a lot of this, awareness activism. So like we said, they're really up there on the digital side of things. They're really utilizing their voice, expressing their opinions, but they're doing it on social media platforms. They're doing it on TikTok infamously. And even in my world, I see fundraising taking shifts because of the way that this specific generation is meeting each other in social things. So what are those first 3 steps you would tell a teen, a young change maker, that how do you do something with this? You have this voice, you have this platform. How do you do it
Yeah.
in a constructive way?
So awareness, right, is for sure the start, right? If you're not even aware of something or you're not hot about it, use the word hot about it. If you're not hot about it or not aware of it. So I would definitely praise the awareness piece that, oh my gosh, you're recognizing this, you're talking about it. But what you could say next digitally or on Snapchat or TikTok or whatever about whatever issue they're talking about. But also, did you know that we could make a change if we did this? Do you know, I looked at or learned or heard that if we collect books and we give books to people that are in low-income areas and help build their home library, that they might read more, increase their literacy. Did you know that there are elephants in unsanctioned zoos that are just being let loose? And did you know?
I did not know that.
If we do, there's so many issues like that we don't really all know about. And somebody, you don't know what their hot button is or what their passion is or what their piece is. So I think the awareness, but then the next step, now that you know, did you know that if we did this step, and it could be a little fundraiser, it could be a bake sale, it could be a block party collecting, food. So did you know if we do this, we could make a difference with this? So I think it's just trying to get that next step.
We had a family that this really, really impressed me. We had a local family whose child had questions about foster care. Why don't they have parents? Why doesn't their mommy want them? This is when I was working with much younger children. Why doesn't their mommy want them? Why can't they go home? What did they do wrong? All these questions. And so this parent channeled those questions into something super small and said, well, answer the questions. Would you like to do something? Is there something you'd like to do for them? And of course, the child from that 10-year-old perspective was, well, does anybody get them Christmas presents? Do they get any Christmas? Well, yes, we all know that there are warehouses filled of donations that can be given out to kids in our community. But she said, you know what? I bet you there isn't anybody who's choosing presents for their kids. How about how much do you think you could raise with your lemonade stand? And I really believe it was a lemonade stand and they made cookies from my recollection. This is years ago. And they might have raised $200, $250 that first year because, you go to work and and took the child to Walmart, had her intentionally pick out presents for, a girl her age or a boy. And they continue to do it through the child's development. So now this child is in college. But what a great way
Incredible.
to take those normal questions that your small child and then make it easy for a small child developmentally to do something and create that ownership in their heart. I thought that was a great parenting example.
Yeah, it is
Absolutely.
And tangible. They're actually going to the store. They're raising the dollars.
Working
They're
for it.
going to the store. They're thinking, what would a child like? That's maybe my age or not my age or the other. So all this critical thinking is happening at the same time. So that is just building so much character, which is so amazing.
And you're also addressing the things like, would you want a Walgreens Barbie? Is that the Barbie that you want? Well, I could get 5 Barbies instead of 1 Barbie if I go to Walgreens. Yes, but would you want a Walgreens Barbie? And then that grows into a 35-year-old female who's like, would you want a Walgreens Barbie or would you want – I don't even know who the popular Barbies are now. That's how old I am.
No, it's still Barbie.
Barbie.
But
it is? Okay, good.
But even for specific platforms, it's and we've seen this in our community through unfortunate tragedies that have happened to our high schoolers, where in the beginning we saw the loudest activists in their rawness,
in their rage.
In the raw rage. And then to follow them throughout the years and to see them become these well-versed and educated advocates. So I invite parents. I do think that's a gift that I was given was you have the argument, you have the good point, but you got to say it the right way. So my dad had a joy in teaching me debate. It would later bite him. I got real good at it. I got really, really good at it. But I it's something I do with my kids now, which is already starting to bite.
Now it's going to bite you.
It's already doing it. But I think in a world where youth is coined as inexperienced and not well-versed, it gives them
An outlet.
An outlet.
Yeah. Did you have anything you wanted to share or
No, you all hit it. I mean, my biggest thing was really just making sure they're informed. Like whatever it is that you feel you're passionate about, make sure you learn. You know, I would hate to see any young person on social media not knowing what the issue is and really understanding it. So do your homework before.
Especially when they care so much about it.
Exactly.
And I think data, because you're being informed, data is really important. And AI, oh my gosh, it's a very easy way. Now, you can do a meta-analysis on the plight of foster care or homeless children or incarcerated adults, how they can't get jobs after.
Yes.
Instead of taking weeks, it can take minutes, and it's fairly accurate. So I think, and with AI, you have to keep asking questions. You have to keep cueing.
Yes.
So it does have you think and does have the youth think. But what I always say is we can find data, and it could be, 100,000 units are needed right here in Broward for affordable housing.
Yes.
And someone might say, oh my gosh, I could never make a difference there. I said, you might make a difference for 5 units. And
Thank you.
there is a family and a
Absolutely.
person behind every data point.
Yep.
So
Thank
don't
you.
always look at the big. You can make the difference. Every data point is a family. So every data point that you change, you're creating.
matters.
It matters so
We've got
much.
11 kids, just to piggyback on that. I've got 11 kids in the next 6 months who are aging out of our main campus and need to be transitioned to our TIL campus, which provides affordable housing for kids who've aged out of foster care. And out of those 11 kids, I don't have 11 beds.
Right.
And so in the past, we've had the luxury of transitioning main campus kids to our second campus. This is the first time where we have this experience where I'm like, well, which kid are we choosing? Which kid gets the safety of having that 24/7 extended family? And which am I throwing to the wolves? Which I hate to say that, but I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And 11 kids, that's if you have 5 units.
Yeah.
Or it's the same concept. Like it matters
It
to
matters
my 11
so much.
names that I
Exactly,
love.
Tiffany. Yeah.
So it does, and to tell yourself that it's just 5. It's just 5. What's that going to do? It matters to my 5.
Yep.
Those are the 5 that I have to figure out a plan for. So that was just a sidebar. You get that for free. You get that for free during Foster Care Awareness Month. So what do parents do unintentionally? Because, we're all making mistakes as parents. But unintentionally, we get in the way of raising a kid who wants to lead or make a difference, and we unintentionally sabotage that. So dip into all your mistakes. Yeah.
I recently had this conversation with someone. I have definitely swooped in too soon with the best of intentions. And recognize now, I say, as Tiffany's heard me say, I have mini adults, 21 and 23. So they're still in the house.
They're cudults, not kids.
Adults.
Not adults.
I
That's
like
my word.
that.
I coined
didn't
it.
know.
I
Okay.
can't
You
trademark
gotta
it.
trademark
I will give you
that.
credit.
I will give you credit. I like
mine.
that better, and they would probably like it better than mini adults as well.
Okay.
But sometimes when you see things are too hard or too overwhelming, wanting to jump in and fix it. Not jump in and ask questions, but jump in and do it or whatever it is. That was definitely something I can say, I'll own it, I've done in the past. And making thoughtful challenges, because I'm not done parenting. I mean, I don't think we ever are. My mom's in my house. She still parents me when she feels the need. But yeah, it's just needing to let them figure it out. Let them fall on their face and just be there to pick them up. But it's okay for them to make mistakes. I don't have kids that are on social media very much. They never really just, I think my background and what I tortured them with growing up just kind of made them not necessarily be really big social media fans, I would say. But they are on. But I think it's trying to balance that idea of not fixing it and not, it's okay for me. I'm good if you fail in the house, even in your friend group, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Failing on social media is different.
Yes.
So I think that's the part where, just continuing to have those conversations with your kids along the way so that they really understands it before maybe those mistakes happen. But just, I need to sit back a little bit and let them kind of figure it out on their own, I think, is part of what parents do a little too quick.
Yeah. It's both, right? Maybe not being involved enough where you're not caring and you're not asking or not encouraging, or yes, swooping in.
Yeah.
And I think you have to know your kids and your grandkids. I'll use an example of my son. Because I'm a social worker, he went everywhere. Even in my
Yes.
desk, in my office, there'd be a little corner where
Did
he
he
could
like
sit and
sleep
play.
underneath?
Yeah, I
My
mean,
kids always
always,
slept
right?
under the desk.
But then I would bring him to things that I had to do, and I didn't always explain it because,
Yes.
right, I'm busy, I'm doing what I need to do, I see the need, and I didn't take the time to always explain why we were doing this or what the population was, or and this one portion, he's not great in big groups either. I'm so social, so I just think he's going to be social, we were doing this huge food distribution, and he was sitting over. It was outside in this corner, and there was a couple kids that were sitting there that were part of this, and he was reading to them. It was just this tiny group, and I'm like, that's so much more his jam than this big, loud. We've got the DJ going and this food distribution, and come on, yay, like rah rah. And I realized everybody's different. It makes it different in different ways. And you gotta have to like know your kids and know your grandkids too now, in a sense, and make sure that you're allowing them in their space, not just your space and how you did things, but their space, and recognizing that their space is different than your space, and celebrating that, and not trying to fit them into your space. That was a biggie for me.
I feel like I had like that is so huge. Like trying to figure out. I think like I look back and I'm like, what? You went to school, you went to high school, you went to college, you had a major, you graduated with that major, and you found a job in that field. My kids have already not done that. And for me, I'm just like, oh, okay. Are you happy? Like, okay, as long as you're happy and you're okay, it's gonna be okay. And then I have to like have a conversation with my husband, like, is it okay? Okay. Like we paid for some school that really doesn't matter anymore. But I mean, maybe it'll matter in 10 years, because who knows? But yeah, I think that's huge.
funny,
Recognizing
right?
that they have their own path and figure out how we can just take a breath and respect their path and support it.
We definitely did the. That's a really solid point. We did not do a whole lot of explaining, and both my husband and I were leading large organizations within the foster care field, and I don't remember ever sitting with Jordan and explaining anything. He was just dragged. He was either dragged to one population or to the other, and had to figure it out for himself. Like you think you just absorb it, you really do. You think they just get
I think
it.
that's what I thought too. Yeah.
And that was a big. That's a big fail.
I would say, as the child of, as someone who can speak on behalf of, and we've had this conversation where your child is an independent thinker, but they're not independent.
Right.
So I do see where my parents saw me on, whether it be youth group stage or doing things, specifically in my teen years, and think she doesn't need us anymore. She doesn't need this anymore. But they weren't in the crowd when I was speaking. They didn't help me practice. When I did fall on my face, which was a lot, they weren't necessarily there to pick me up, nor was my older sibling, because he wasn't taught that, right? And we were so significantly separated in age. But the other part of this was I saw them sacrifice their lives for their mission. And so I am just in my 40s unlearning that professionally. And realizing, so imagine the whole first half of my career is this is my lifestyle. And so with my kids, I do have that balance of trying to not swoop in, but at the end of the day, remembering they're the advocate, and whatever they want to be the advocate for, I am their advocate. But, the more interesting times where my parents showed me what to do or what not to do was when I didn't agree, or I voiced or championed something that I'll use the example, in a very religious home, was not what they wanted
You to say.
their young
I'm so
Christian
glad.
daughter to say.
I'm so glad I'm so glad you're bringing this up.
Yes. And so, and again, remember, my dad taught me debate, and my mom just had a teen daughter. So we were up for the challenge on each other. The three of us would go at it. So what do you do? What is it that you do when it's an issue that they're passionate about? And I would say it's so relevant in this day and age. We're so divided in so many different subjects where you do not disagree. You cannot see how your child is getting to that place and has that point of view. So
It's
how
so
do you
public.
balance, and it's so public, right? How do you balance the, what are you doing?
Why are you saying
Why
that
are
out
you
loud?
thinking this way? How did your brain get there? With, I'm going to empower you to have your voice.
Ugh.
You know,
That's
where
pretty
do you
This
hard.
one, this one is. I'm so glad she brought this up.
Yeah.
This one's a rough one. So if you need to take a moment of silence,
I
it's really hard.
And
They're
Mom,
so
don't
public.
watch this part of it.
you know,
Just
and
skip.
as a parent, right? As a parent, I want to say that you're going to be supportive, that you want them to be free thinkers, and you want, but it's really hard, and it's really hard if it's so divergent from
Yes.
what you think. And I think today it is more pervasive, especially politics. You know, we've got families who have such divergent, I use that word, views of whether it's our administration or policies or et cetera. And you've got one side of the family feeling one way and the other side. And again, as a mature adult, I want to say that I would be supportive, even maybe not in agreement. But honestly, I think that's really hard.
Yes.
I really do. So I don't know if I actually have an example in my own family, but I have a best friend who is a stepmom. And I was a stepmom too, and to my girls, which I'll share, I think, a pretty cool story. And her side of the family has one politic view, and then the biological mother, and that family has a different. So when the kids come to them, there's this mismatch of ideas of what kind of news to watch, what we should be doing in our community.
wow.
And she's so struggled because one is she's the stepmom, so she's not biological mom, but yet she feels so strongly that people should have all views. So she dug in and learned their viewpoint in a sense and where they were coming from. But then she didn't really shy away from sharing another viewpoint. Like, could you see that there are people that don't look like us and that they're not feeling empowered right now? So she did try to have this balanced nuance, but she said it was really hard, and I can imagine. And then the other side of the family not being supportive that this is their
Happening.
viewpoint. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
then you've got tension.
Don't feed my kid
and-
that trash.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I want to come here saying that, oh my gosh, we can manage this, but it is really,
Really hard.
difficult. I think it is. And I'll bring up some issues like reproductive rights, right?
Yes.
There's some really strong feelings about
Yes.
that. And, you know, we really have to
Gun
kind
control. I mean,
Gun
there's a lot. There's a
control,
thousand different
right.
issues that polarize us.
There is.
Consent. With our boys, having those conversations.
All those things that the way I feel, I feel like my kids should feel this way, right?
Yes.
And they should be purporting the same philosophy of, you know, fighting for all and fighting for this. And what if they don't feel that? And what if they truly feel something completely different? I'm going to have to step back and examine, you know, should we be driving our own opinion always? And no, we shouldn't be driving our own opinion always, but it's not easy to do that.
So hard.
Self-insight is a lot harder than outside insight. I can look at others,
sure.
but then, you know, turning and looking at myself. So I think this is it's a pivotal time for us to really examine ourselves and try to understand that people really do have different viewpoints.
Yes.
And they're not all coming from terrible places. They're coming from great places. So
And
if
from
we
their
can
experience.
I have donors who don't think like I do, and I call it a moral grounding. I know that they love their kids the way I love my kids.
Yes.
I know they love their jobs. I know like they love their grandkids. I know they like to have fun. I know that they like to give back and do things, even though they don't see the world the way I do. So I do this moral grounding for myself all the time. And maybe that's a step in the right direction, you know, for all of us.
I love that moral
Yeah.
grounding, finding common ground.
Yeah.
There is a common ground.
Yeah.
It's okay for them to have a different opinion. It
Totally.
doesn't make them an enemy.
Correct.
But it is difficult because when you're a teenager in their perspective, which is, you know, we all know they're brain damaged until they're about 27. I know I'm not as eloquent or diplomatic as you are, but that's what it is. It's brain damage. Their frontal lobe is not developed.
But it is developing.
But it's developing, and their brain damaged opinion of life is all over TikTok. To give you a real life example, and something that we're dealing with right now. I was being funny. People, please do not clip me and say that I think that teenagers are brain damaged. But we have 29 teenagers at any given time on main campus and 34 on the other campus, and their perspective varies, whether they are 16-year-old in foster care or they are 21-year-old in foster care. It does change developmentally. But they are on, for the first time in my career, in the 30 years that I've been doing this, they have a public audience immediately. About their perspective, about their trauma, about what they are going through in the system of care, and they use it. And they're publicly professing their perspective of what has happened, which then has consequences.
Right.
Because it's a limited perspective.
Yes.
It's a limited opinion. And so we do struggle. It's from their own perspective.
Right.
It's not the whole, the greater whole with all of the factors.
So inputs and
Yes. Something as simple as, I'm not allowed to have my cell phone. Well, you're not allowed to have your cell phone because you're a victim and you can be found. And so you're under protective supervision.
But they don't share
But
that piece.
They
of
don't
it.
share that piece.
Right.
So we're dealing with this in real time with their public opinions and the very real consequences of it. And it's just, it is really hard to allow that to not shift onto your authoritative preset.
Exactly. To
and to
swoop
shut
in
them
and
down.
fix it and shut it down.
To
and
ask them questions. Why do you feel this way? Help me understand why you feel this way. It's really difficult to parent this.
There's real consequences. We've heard of so many kids get kicked out of school at college level, not get jobs because
of their mouth.
you can have a voice, but make it constructive in such a divisive age.
It's hard.
Yeah.
You have so much to look forward to.
Yay.
You are so. So how do you do it? Do you have any?
So
Do they ever disagree? Have you ever had this problem? Yes.
I have these really random children. So not really. I always felt from the time my kids were essentially born that they were just small human beings and that they needed to be treated that way. So they needed to know what the plan was for the weekend and where we were going and what time we were leaving and who was going to be there. Didn't mean that they always had to say, like, I don't want to go, but I thought it was important to keep them informed. And in keeping that idea, it was also allowing them a space to say how they felt about that. Like, they could tell me they really don't want to go. And I'd be like, I understand. I maybe didn't want to go to that either.
Neither do I.
I'd be like, I get you, but
I say that to mine.
we have to go, right? So if that was something that I was saying from the time you were, let's say 4, to be honest, right? Because they're having a little more conversation by then. Then I need to expect that that's going to continue in their life, that they're going to have something to say. And I am, as hard as it is, we need to continue to encourage those. I believe, encourage them to have their voice. But I love how you say teaching them to do it in a way that's going to be constructive. And I also I had my little silly grin just to hear the way that you speak about the kids on campus and them having their perspective, I think is huge. When you're talking about kids that have experienced trauma, there's so many times that people want to say, well, that didn't happen that way.
Right.
Doesn't matter,
Happened that way to
right?
them.
Because
Yeah.
the way
For
that it
them, it
feels,
did.
right?
Yes.
You know, so I think that's really important for everybody to remember. You don't have to just be a kid who's been in care or somebody who's experienced like really significant trauma. Well, probably experienced some sort of trauma in our lives, but to be able to recognize that it's just as important to know the facts as it is to respect people's perspective on situations. And I think that, you know, that matters in these situations too.
And you brought up a great point earlier with your daughter, where at first you thought, wow, you know, she's quiet. Like, is this all hitting home? Is she passionate about things?
Is she really my kid?
Is she really?
Yes.
Like,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Should we
I just
talk
had-
further?
You've met
no.
her. You can see the difference.
So, you know, what do you do in kind of an apathetic as well generation? I think social media destroyed and desensitized, you know, community and conversation and regulating emotions. So what do you do when it is a surface level? They're not sticking through. They're not.
It's apathetic.
Yeah, they're
Checking the box.
they sign up for something, they don't finish it, or they're passionate in the moment, and then it's not top of mind, so it weans off. So, you know, what do you do to make it so this is actually something they're passionate about and not just, it burned out, or I just do this for my college, you know,
I need
applications or resume?
Can I just admit that I send them home, as an actual organization? If they're not engaged I will send them home. I don't need you to sit there on your phone. Just go. I'm not giving you the service hours. Is that terrible? Am I a terrible human being?
No,
Thank you.
because that spreads.
I'm not Kathleen.
Yeah.
That's lessons.
can't
That's
live up.
Poison apple
that's
doesn't
good
spread.
lessons.
Yeah.
Yes. There's going to be people that are apathetic. There's going to be people who don't dive in and don't care. However, whether it's parents or adults or leaders, I think it is part of our vocation to share with people that there are differences in where the zip code you're born can dictate your entire life.
Yes.
Does that seem fair to all? So the more that I think we can educate our youth about how many different types of situations, families, poverty, homelessness, criminal justice, abuse to animals, just doesn't, it could be the arts, many things. The more we can expose them to, the more that something might click, right? That they might say, oh my gosh, I got it really lucky. I didn't know I had it so lucky. Something might just click, that they realize that there is privilege, and just because you're you might still struggle, but that there are certain privileges that have been offered to different people in our community, and that we're super lucky at times that where we live or where we grew up or the kind of family we have, or maybe we're not lucky. And maybe this is something that we need to be dealing with. But I think the more we can educate our youth about how many different types of families there are in different situations, something might strike. Something just might get somebody. And, there's, oh my gosh, is it CBS News has like good news. They have Jim Harmon, I think his name is. He does these good news episodes, and it's so refreshing, empathic, and refreshing. Thank you. And most of it is about youth. Just doing something small, a lemonade stand, a bake sale, something on social media, raising some awareness, and that it has this like ripple effect, right? So if we could share some of those good stories more often, but that there are situations that we all need to try to step in, I think that can help. But I also think there's apathy, and I think not all youth or adults are going to engage and be advocates. And so what could they do? Could they be donors? Could they just strike a check, which would really help out? Or would you, in your allowance, do you do 10% of your allowance, put it towards a cause? Maybe you don't believe in it so much, but yet, guess what? You're making a difference. So I think we could reach people in all different levels.
You can always be a donor, in case we need to clarify that.
Always.
Every time
Always
somebody
be a
tells me
donor.
they want to be a social worker, I say, no, make some money and give back to the social
Philanthropist.
workers.
Yeah.
Yes,
Philanthropist.
give
We need
back.
more of those.
Give
So
back.
important.
Don't
I
be
just
broke.
wanted to add also, is just as a parent, remembering that your kid doesn't need to do a giant project and, maybe take it on for the next 3 years. Like it could be just a bake sale and be just as excited about it. Because I think what I've seen more recently is that you have parents that are driving their kids and pushing their kids to do things that really don't even make sense, that ultimately they don't really care about. They're just going along with it because their parents really want them to do it. So I think it's important for us as parents and caregivers and, whoever the grown person you are in that kid's life, be happy with what they've been sparked by. And no matter how big or how small, encourage it, the same way.
I think you bugged our home. We've had this conversation so many times because we are both type A leaders. And so, part of Jordan's becoming an adult is watching how he chooses what kind of man he's becoming. And he's not going to lead an organization. He doesn't want to lead an organization. He doesn't want to lead a team. It's not in him, which is foreign. Because what do you mean you don't want to lead it? But, my point is, did he participate in the food drive? Right. Did he volunteer
Yes.
for the mission trip? Did he do something? Did he get behind something? Winning. But yes, as a parent, when you watch them choose or when they become, and they're so different. It's taking that step back and realigning that. But you want to say something? I see your finger. I saw your finger.
I say that because, again, you guys are really bringing me back to my childhood days.
Wait, are we triggering you or are we bringing you
No,
back?
it's good because it is a lot of what has turned me into who I am today. So I will say, this was a big win for my parents. So I say that as the kid who wasn't thrusted into it, but into the spotlight of it, meaning I told my parents I was going to speak before they really made me do it. But volunteer. One, it's a learned behavior.
Yes.
So
It is a learned
and
behavior.
I will always get on my little soapbox, and I'll always say it's enough talking about the issues. What are you actually doing to
about
get
the
your
issues.
hands dirty?
It's got to be a little bit boots on the
It's
ground.
a little bit of this, and it's
yeah.
also not for anything. I joke with some other moms, like it's a little bit of the Scared Straight program, right? Our kids.
I miss that program.
It needs to come back in
It
in
really
a
does.
healthy,
Bring it back,
in a
Kathleen.
healthy
Slightly
way.
modified
It started in my neighborhood in New Jersey.
It needs to come back.
So that memory of the basement and organizing those toys, even though these are toys that I really, really wanted, knowing that there was another side of this and that it was a reality that was educated to me very young, that there are kids who do not have Christmases the way that I have Christmas. And so I was forced to volunteer in many early stages. I naturally wanted to do it later. Whereas now as a parent, I'm almost a little afraid to expose my kids a little too soon. I mean, they're 8 and 5, so I do have some years ahead of me. But even my 8-year-old, I'm like, I feel like it's time.
It is time.
To get him started.
Yeah.
So he learns. So I would say that. But there's a donor who will always stick with me. I wrote him this beautiful proposal when I was at Gilda's Club, and he was like, well, I have to run it past my daughter. And at the time, I want to say she was maybe 9 years old. And the whole reason we got the gift was because she wanted to invest in the cancer support to children. So the next year, I was like, now I know who I need to talk to. And I made the proposal to her, to a now 10-year-old. And to see her graduating high school, she won a local award. She has clocked so many volunteer hours. She has become a natural leader. And I really think she came from affluence. She could have easily said, I can give the dollars.
Right.
But because her parents, specifically her dad, sat her down and said, this is what philanthropy actually looks like on a dollar perspective, but this is what it looks like on an action perspective.
Yeah.
That was like, okay, this is how I need to do it.
Really something you said is so important. It's a learned behavior, and I think we forget that we do have personalities. All of us have personalities. There's introverts, extroverts, etc. Maybe real born leaders and not, but there is learned behavior. Volunteering is learned behavior. Philanthropy is learned behavior. Learning about others is learned behavior. And if you didn't have parents who taught you that, we can be the adults that teach each other.
Absolutely.
There should be philanthropy in school. There
Yes.
should be that like little piece. Like I've often thought about a philanthropy, school for whether it's in actual schools or just that parents want to teach or bring them to United Way to learn at a small
that's a
age
great
about
idea.
philanthropy, because everything matters. Everything makes a difference. And think about if everybody did something small, it would build up
Huge
and it
impact.
would be so huge.
So change the way we relate to each other.
We would, because there's people of all political persuasions that come to volunteer.
Yes.
There's people of all, thought beliefs that come to donate.
Yes.
So we're coming together for shared purpose. And I do think it's a learned behavior. And I think the more we can teach, model, the more that we can change the world. And teachers could do it too, right? And Girl Scout leaders and Boy Scout leaders and coaches and
Youth pastors.
faith-based, exactly. Faith houses. Oh my gosh, so much gets learned about giving back in faith houses.
Yes.
So
Yes.
kids that don't have faith houses in any manner, they'd have to learn it somewhere else. But it really does matter. It's one of the beautiful benefits, I think, is you really learn about giving back to others. And so learn behavior.
Last question. What's the one thing as parents, if we have a parent that's sitting here today and they're thinking, man, I want my kid to own this concept. I want them to do more than just spout out on social media. What's the one thing that we could implement in our homes and we can start today with? One thing.
Give them opportunities. Give them opportunities to figure out what
They like.
sparks their interest. What do they believe in? What do they want to fight for? Because once you give them those opportunities, kids will surprise you. I mean, I truly believe that. And I think, like you said, you literally brought back core memory for me. Like I forgot that I used to volunteer with my dad at we used to bring homeless men to sleep in the bottom of our basement. Sorry, not my basement, the church basement in New York. Completely forgot that I used to do
I'm so
that.
glad it wasn't your basement.
Yeah, it
I had a
wasn't my
moment.
personal
I was like,
basement.
that's not
We were about to
healthy.
have
But it
more
wasn't.
questions.
But that's something that happened so young, and I literally have not thought about that for so long. But it had to have an impact on my life, and that was, again, just something they brought me to. So engage with your kids, make the time to have these kind of conversations, and give them the opportunities to learn more about what's going on in their communities, so they can find what speaks to them.
I think it's something you said before, Theresa, too. So the topic is world changer, but world change, you don't just pop out as a world changer, right? It's all these little steps that take place. So families should, let's collect our clothes and let's figure out where we could bring them to. Toys, books, do like a block party and collect things. But talk about the dignity side of it. It's not, we're not gonna give dirty clothes and ripped clothes and old sneakers.
Yes,
And we're
please
not
don't
gonna
do that.
give
Huge.
We're going to
crappy-
wash them before we put them in the
And
hefty
we're
bag.
not going to do crappy toys. Like
Right.
we're going to collect things and do things with dignity and grace. And what would you want?
Yes.
That's what we
That's
want
it.
to deliver where we're going.
Let's
And
do the
I-
clocking thing.
Yes.
Do the clocking thing.
If you wouldn't give it to your best friend, don't give it to an organization.
100%,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
this is not about getting rid of old stuff that you're trying to get rid of. This is about creating change and imparting something good for somebody. And maybe it's something you loved. So
Yes.
how cool would it be to donate that somewhere that someone else will love that? But with dignity, and it's important stuff, good stuff. Please, when people drop off old things that, who would want
You
that?
would have
We're not
no
getting-
idea.
Half-used bottle of lotion.
Believe me, I know.
I think we've all
literal
seen
half-used
it.
bottles of
I have
lotion
a
and
solution,
shampoo.
though. They
Right.
can take the old stuff. We created a solution. You can take your old holy stuff and put it in the bin, and we will get paid by the pound for the stuff that's not usable anymore. You would be surprised how many people still don't want to do that. Like they're so attached to their holy jeans or their holy, like ripped shirts. They don't even want to put it in the bin.
Right.
But it is a solution. It's a solution.
Right. And I think a little tiny business plan. And I think we could use it, even with youth, we could use the word
Interesting.
business plan.
Yeah.
It could be 5 steps. Like it doesn't have to be this, where we want to collect food or we want to do a lemonade stand or cookies or something like that. Let's put a 5-step business plan into place. What do you see as the outcome? Do you see people, us collecting toys and then bringing them somewhere? So start from what you kind of want to happen. And then what are the 5 steps that we have
Love
to
that.
get there?
Oh, that's such a good
I
idea.
love that.
Yeah.
And I think, too, we should throw little wrenches in. Like we should say, all right, if we have a lemonade stand and somebody comes up with a $20 bill and your lemonade is $1 and they want $19, like throw the little wrenches in, like walk through scenarios that could actually happen because then it helps prepare, right?
Yeah.
You don't want your kid to be like, oh my God, what do I do
Your
now?
worker didn't show up for their shift.
Yeah,
What are you doing?
yeah.
That never
Throw
happens.
little wrenches in before it actually happens. It builds stamina, right? It builds a little bit, all right, I think I've got this figured out. I know what I can do here, or be prepared ahead of time.
Yeah.
And I think a little simple
I love
business
that.
plan of
Yeah,
throwing
that was a
wrenches
good
in
one.
ahead of time might help prepare people. And then your projects get bigger and bigger as you get older and older. And,
Yeah.
Which we've seen with so many youth that end up getting awarded.
Yeah.
The inner child in me wants to remind everyone, love your kid first. They're not fully independent at 15, 16 years old.
Or 21 or
And
23.
they don't know how to regulate that passion.
Yep.
And sometimes
Yep.
if they're super empathetic, they may or may not carry that with them. And then they don't know what to do with those. But also know when it's not you. So I was lucky to have coaches, youth pastors. I was always the kid full of potential. So I had a lot of people gravitate to me as mentors. And I loved that my parents were like, then we're gonna get out of the way, because I learned so much from them that I probably would have let go in one ear and out the other with my parents.
Yeah.
That's a really great point.
Wow.
Boy, I love this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I know you are so swamped, both of you.
No,
Thank you.
it's so. Thank you so much for inviting. Such a good conversation, and it brings back memories. I'm flipping through different things, and
Totally.
I feel so triggered. And thank
In a
you
good
for
way.
joining us today. Please hit that subscribe button.
Subscribe,
we need you.
subscribe.
Subscribe. And we'll see you next time on This Is Now Parenting Teens Today.